So this is a quick update on some of my experiences with the StellaVita. I am going to talk about problems that I've had with this thing, but keep in mind that I'm really only bringing these things up to kind of help the ToupTek team see what's going on and like some of the maybe problems that I as an end user have had, so that they can kind of fix them. And they will almost certainly be fixed, some of them probably very quickly within a week or two here after I actually talk about them. So you may never ever hear about these issues ever again. And one other thing, I know some people have talked about this thing being released in March. I don't think that's true. They are releasing an iOS version of the app in March, which I can't wait to get my hands on. But for now, it's just Android tablets or iPhones, or not tablet, Android phones that you can connect to this thing with. And as to when this thing will actually be launched and for sale, that might be a little while, probably about 6 months. I don't know the date. I have had a successful night out with this guy. In fact, I had 2 successful nights. So the first night, I just captured a few images and then clouds basically rolled in. And yeah, I got 2 good shots and, and then everything went south as far as weather goes. But the guiding that I had that night, it was very good for the first 2 shots, and actually for the first like 6 or 7, even though the clouds kind of came through. But once the stars were pretty much obscured, I did see like a few weird guiding artifacts. They look like the stars were like in L shapes, which I think the StellaVita may have been trying to recalibrate its guiding while it was taking an exposure, which again, I'm guessing they'll be able to fix that. But also, there were clouds overhead. The images that I were getting were trash, total trash. Like they were completely whited out. You could just barely see the stars through them. Now my experience with the polar alignment routine, I think, is actually a pretty pleasant one. I really like their routine. Their routine it's quite a bit different than the ASI Airs. Well, I say it's just a little bit different than the ASI Airs in that it only rotates about in 10-degree increments. It takes a picture at 10 degrees and then it rotates 10 more degrees and takes another picture. So there's only like 20 degrees or so of rotation on the actual scope in order to get polar alignment. With the ASI Air, it does, I think it's like 60 degrees or something like that. Maybe it's 90. But the scope just about goes on its side, and then it takes another exposure so that you can then start to like actually polar align the thing. So with this guy, I think polar alignment was actually kind of a little bit faster. Also, the interface for polar alignment is very intuitive. It's very simple, and it's actually, I would describe it as being very clean. There's no extra stuff in there. Now, one thing that I would like to see added though is perhaps a way to change exposures while doing polar alignment, or maybe I just haven't figured that out yet. Now, my second night out, of course I had actually a full night that was clear and everything. That time I was actually able to capture 30 nice subs of the target that I was imaging. Setting up a plan was pretty easy to do and understand and kind of like do. Like my first time basically, I basically had a good plan from the night before when the clouds had rolled in. And so yeah, setting up the plan, pretty easy to understand. And going back and forth in the interface might have been a little bit confusing. Maybe some tabs up at the top to delineate what section of the planning stage you're in, because I think there's 3 different interfaces for the planning stage. One that like controls the camera, one that controls the object you go to, and then I think there might have been one more. Now, unfortunately that night, I got 30 great subs. They're all perfect, but they're in this thing and I don't know how to get them out of it. I had forgotten to put an SD card in it, so it saved them to the internal memory. And as of right now, I haven't been able to figure out how to get the images off of it. And I had my wife look at it. She's really techie. And I had IT at work look at it too. I mean, they were in the BIOS and looking at gate signatures and all this stuff, and they couldn't figure it out either. There seems to be no way at present to transfer the images from internal storage onto like an SD card. And also when I plug in through the USB-C here on the side, this thing doesn't show up as any kind of drive that I can like access the images that are stored internally on it, which again, I'm sure that's something that the ToupTek team will finish for quite quickly, because I know they're going to be watching this video. And that's why I'm actually bringing these up. So, but so far, yeah, pretty promising and everything. And in fact, one of the things that I kind of learned while using this thing was with my AM5, I've started having like a connection issue with the front terminal, the power terminal. The littlest bit of movement is starting to cause it to lose connection, which shuts down my entire rig. And I've actually been losing a lot of nights because of this. Like it'll track the sky to a certain spot and then it'll lose connection and I'll lose the rest of the night essentially. Well, with this guy here, because I could basically send power out to a mount to that from here, from this point, I kind of did an experiment. I used the side port, the 3 amp port that's on the side of the AM5, and ran power in that way rather than in the front port because it's a more reliable port and everything. And I was able to kind of clean up my cable management a little bit. Now I just have one power cord that's coming down and it doesn't come up right in the center of the column, which I kind of like. I think that's actually the kind of configuration I'm going to run from now on with that particular mount. So yeah, you know, doing something just a little bit different has kind of caused me to learn some things about my own equipment. And yeah, it's been fun so far. So I'm looking forward to doing some more things with this. I'll probably actually get my ToupTek Orion G21 camera, maybe on this mount, we'll see here, and kind of reconfigure a few other scopes and so forth so that I can kind of use this thing full time. But for now, we're just going to be doing like a side-by-side comparison on my SV122. Yeah, stay tuned with my channel and I will be continuing to do updates on this guy as they add new features and so forth, which they seem to be doing pretty quickly. So a couple of other things that I've noticed would be the startup sequence of this device. So with this guy, when I turn it on, it's on. The app's right there, everything's, the software's loaded and so forth. With the ASI Air, connecting to the ASI Air has always been a bone to pick. I don't know why, but like a lot of times Chinese software developers make logging into things really overly complicated. I know with the ASI Air, there's almost like 3 different screens you have to advance through in order to get into the app. Whereas with the ToupTek, you just turn it on and boom, it's there. I like that, okay, because I can get started faster, okay? It's not needlessly overcomplicated like it is on the ASI Air. Now, one thing I have not been able to do yet is to do what these guys call a digital bridge, which is basically just, you know, connecting your device to your mesh network so that you can, through your mesh network, connect from like much farther away rather than depending upon the internal Wi-Fi. Yeah, I just have not been able to do it with this guy yet. We're supposed to be able to do it with this little device right here, but yeah, I haven't been able to do it with that either yet. That might be a software thing. It might actually, I know for sure, they have told me that the card that's built into it can't do it for a hardware limitation. Seems like that could be something they could overcome, but you know, they are actually looking for a new internal Wi-Fi card that will be a lot better and will hopefully fix that problem so that you can kind of just do it like the ASI Air does. Because right now the ASI Airs that I have, I just connect to my mesh network and I can go anywhere with like a 300-yard radius of this thing and still be connected. The internal Wi-Fi in it seems like it's, you know, just like any other ASI Air itself as far as range goes. Now, another cool thing about this thing is that connecting via an IP, you know, so that you can remotely connect from like another state essentially, is much easier on this guy than it is the ASI Air. With this thing here, it's basically, oh, click to connect to an API or an IP address. Type in your IP address, hit OK, done, you know, just like that. You know, ASI Air, it's a lot scarier looking. And I've actually never done it on the ASI Air, just because of that. And one other word about connectivity. So with this guy, connectivity has actually been pretty solid. As long as I am within range, I don't get kicked off, I don't lose connectivity. It seems pretty stable. With my ASI Airs, it has always been buggy for some reason. There's I mean, to this day, I mean, it's a very mature product. Yet to this day, there are many beautiful nights that I've had where I've gone out and I've sat there and I've tried to connect and I've tried to connect and I've tried restarting, I've tried switching from my phone to my iPad to my laptop and done hardware restarts and reset the thing, and just for whatever reason I just cannot get freaking connected to anything, okay? And I just kind of have to throw up my hands and give up for the night. I don't know why. That's something that just has happened to me to this day. It just happens every once in a while. You know, usually I go a month and then it happens again. I haven't been using this thing for a month yet, but so far I haven't had anything even close to that kind of experience happen to me. When I connect, I'm connected. You know, it's that simple. Now, for device connections and so forth, I've noticed that when I turn this thing on, I do have to manually in software turn all the devices that are in it on. Like I have to turn the camera on, I have to turn the guide camera on, I have to turn the mount on, I have to turn the focuser on. With the ASI Air, most of the time those things turn on automatically. The only thing that doesn't do that, there's a couple of actually devices that don't do that for me. I have a few mounts that it won't do that ever, so that might be a mount hardware issue. And also the CAA or camera rotator that ZWO makes now, which I have been, I'm gonna have a review on soon. That thing doesn't ever connect automatically. Every single time I have to turn it on in software. So hopefully they can kind of address that issue too in the ToupTek, if it is an issue, and maybe make it better just so that we can just turn on and go faster.